So I have a spooky story for you, and it features a young girl and her babysitter. Now, this young girl's like 5 years old, we'll say preschool age, and her babysitter is right around high school age. Every day at around 3 p.m., the babysitter goes to pick up the preschooler. They walk home, which is about a half a mile walk. Now, they can take a car or a taxi, but usually the weather's pretty nice, so the two of them make a practice of it. And every day that they get home, the babysitter will go in, make the snack for the preschooler, turn on the cartoons, and then she'll start on her homework. So there's one day where the two of them were sitting in the living room. The preschooler was coloring and eating her snack. The babysitter was doing her homework with the TV on. On the TV in the background, just kind of passively, the news was playing. Evidently, in the area, there had been a string of break-ins, nothing to worry about, the cops were on the lookout, yada yada. And as the two of them were sitting in the living room, the house phone rings. And this is a rarity because at this time of the day, nobody ever calls. Not to mention the babysitter has a cell phone, and that's usually the best way to reach her when she's there at the house. So the babysitter gets up from what she's doing, she goes over to the phone, checks the caller ID, it's an unknown number, and so she decides to pick up on a whim. When she picks up, there's a voice on the line. It sounds like an older man. Before the babysitter can say anything, he says, "Make sure you check the doors." Now, this was automatically unsettling, and so the girl goes to the window the first thing to peek out to see if she can see anything. The second thing she does is go straight to the doors. There's about five of them downstairs, and so she goes all around to each door and she checks them. Thankfully, they're locked. She goes back over to the phone, picks up, and there's a dial tone. Nobody's on the other end. So she's creeped out a little bit, but she decides to go back into the living room. Doesn't think much about it. Later on, the preschooler's parents get there. The babysitter goes back to her house, and everything is fine after that. The next day rolls around, and again, like clockwork, the babysitter goes and grabs the preschooler. They walk home the half mile, they get into the house, and as they're sitting in the kitchen eating snacks, the phone rings again. Yet this time when the phone rings, the girl gets a shiver down her spine. There's something off about it, just automatically she can tell. But something tells her to go and pick it up. And much like she did the first time, as soon as she grabbed the phone off the receiver, again, it was on the house phone, an older man on the opposite line said, "Make sure you go and check the doors." So this time the girl is really freaking out. She ran straight to all five doors downstairs, made sure they were all locked. Thank goodness. And this time, much like the first time, she goes back over to the phone. There's nobody on the other end. So that evening when the preschooler's parents get home, she tells them about what's been happening about the two phone calls. And the parents are like, "That's really unusual. I'm glad you checked the doors. We'll look into it. Would you like a ride home so you don't have to walk?" The girl's like, "No, I'm good." She heads out. And the next day rolls around, day number 3. Now, much like the previous day, the babysitter goes and grabs the preschooler and they walk home. They're sitting in the living room again. This time, the babysitter preemptively goes and checks all of the doors, and she's sitting in the living room with the preschooler. The preschooler is eating her snack, the babysitter is doing her homework, and they've got the TV on. Now, the babysitter is kind of nervous at this point because she's anticipating another creepy phone call. And as she's sitting there doing her homework, she glances up and notices that on the news, they say they caught the burglar that was breaking into people's homes. So this automatically sends a wave of relief over her, and she's feeling optimistic. So she gets up and she's about to make herself a snack when all of a sudden she gets a phone call. Now this time she felt a pit in her stomach and she couldn't figure out how that wave of relief was replaced so quickly by it. But much like the other 2 times, she slowly but surely walks over to grab the house phone. And this time, much like the other 2 times, on the other end of the line, there was a man's voice that says, "Make sure you check the doors." Now again, unlike the other 2 days, the first thing the girl did when she got inside today was check the doors. So she went to each and every single door, and that's when she realized that one of them was in fact unlocked. So as she walked over to the door, she peeked out of the small window that was on it, and there, about 5 feet in front of her, a man dressed all in black with a weapon on his side. Had she not beat him to the door, he certainly would have gotten in through that entrance. So she quickly locked the door and called the cops on her cell phone. The second call the girl made was to the preschooler's parents. She told them what happened and told them to get home immediately. After that, she called her own. Now, luckily for all parties involved, the police got there quickly. They were also able to apprehend the man as well. Evidently, the man they picked up earlier, the alleged burglar, was in fact not the right one. It was a case of mistaken identity, and the man who was sitting in jail was not the one who was actually doing the robbing. And when the parents came in that afternoon, they waited until things had calmed down, and they pulled the babysitter to the side. The babysitter looked quizzically at them because she's ready to go home. It's been a very traumatic day for her, but the parents asked her who was giving her the phone calls if she ever figured it out. The babysitter stated she had no clue who the phantom caller was, but she was grateful for whoever it was because it's likely that he saved their lives. And this is when the preschooler's parents would tell her something that would make her skin crawl yet again that day. They told her that the phone lines had actually been disconnected months ago. In fact, they had called into their cable service because they had a bundle deal and asked about the phone call to see if they could track it. And that's when the cable company told them that their house phone line had been out of service for months by that point. so there was no way anybody could have been calling. Of course, it is entirely possible that somebody got the wrong number, and perhaps whoever this person was intended to warn their own loved ones about this impending danger, or just to give them a safety warning. On the flip side, I'm not entirely sure how you would receive a message on a phone line that's been disconnected for months, but I want to know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you guys think happened. Did this girl have a guardian angel? Perhaps it was a case of mistaken identity, and maybe the caller had the wrong number. Again, I want to know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next video.